Moody, sit. Moody, come here, sit. All right, this is my buddy Moody, and in this video, we're gonna go over how you can stop your dog from jumping up on guests when they come through the door. Now, what we're gonna do is something called an incompatible behavior, which means we're gonna ask her to do something that is not compatible with jumping up on people. Now, she just beat me to the punch, but in this position, which is what a lot of us do, and I used to do this myself, is put the dog into a sit. Well, she can jump really easily out of that. That's kind of like the track position. Her legs are coiled and ready to spring and unleash. When she's standing, it's harder for her to jump. So basically what we're gonna do is be using this concept, and we're also gonna be using a hand targeting exercise, which is basically, yes. And so when I'm doing hand targeting, if I don't ask her an SAT, yes. It's harder for her to jump because she's on all fours. It's easier for them to jump if they're sitting. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna teach dogs hand targeting independent of the door. And all it is for this is we wanna use a strong motion. Dogs' eyes are very attracted to movement. So if I just chop my hand, yes. When she touches her nose to my hand, I say the marker word, yes. And then I put the treat in her hand. Now, if she wants to sit or lay down at this point, I don't really care. I'm just teaching her how to do the cue, which we've already taught her. Yes. Now, if she comes close to your hand and doesn't touch it, don't say your marker word. You're only saying the marker word for the action that we want. And when you're chopping, make sure you're chopping at nose level. If I chop too high, this is where you're supposed to jump up and do it. Well, a lot of times the dog will jump up to nudge, but so that's why when we do it, we want to chop on either side of their nose at nose level. Yes. So that she can stay in a standing position, which is the target. You got to get better at this. So now I'm going to chop back a little closer. Now I'm doing a cardinal rule that I shouldn't do, and I'll show you the way I should do this. So I have the treat here behind my back. Yes. Now I'll do the same thing. Yes, that worked, but I was holding the treat right here. Don't hold the treat in front of the dog. It'll cause them to want to go for it. So first thing you're gonna do is teach your dog to do hand targeting, and you're gonna practice all over your house where it's easy for your dog to do it. Once it's easy for your dog to do it, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna practice right here at the door. Now, if I open the door right now, she has to move, so I don't wanna have her sitting in the area because I'd like her to stay outside of the range of the door. So maybe have her come over here. So, yes, I took my hand away, didn't I? That's a rule that I say not to do. Let's do that again. Yes. Let's get you standing though. Yep, had it in front. This is a result of us only teaching her this a couple minutes ago and not really practicing it too much. Yes. So what I want to do is I'm just keep on practicing until it becomes easier for her to do it. And then I can say, boop. Well, yes. The cue that her guardian wants to go over is boop, or she uses boop. So, boop, yes. Boop, yes. And so you want to keep on doing this. So when you say boop, your dog will run for 15 feet away and touch the nose to your hand. Then you're ready for this next stage. So we practice it all over the place. There we go. And now we practice it at the door. Now when we actually go to open the door, there's a couple of elements. So first of all, if I come and open the door, that gets the dog aroused. So what we're gonna do instead, and we're gonna have a cat, and what's his name again? Henry. Henry he wants to get a little cat time on YouTube, and that's okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna say sit. Now if I go over here and open the door, I'm holding treats, but that is a lot of steps. We don't really think about that. So what I'm gonna do instead is if I'm, like say I'm sitting on the couch, I come over here, say sit, touch the door handle, come back, yes, treat. Yes, treat. What am I doing? I'm teaching the dog some of the behavior I want at the door. Some of the behavior I want at the door, the cats will be in the shop, that's okay, is I want her to be seated or to be away from the door. Now, the jumping part, we don't want her seated like I talked about earlier. So this is really just a desensitization exercise, just having her used to me going here, touching this, yes, treat. So I'm saying yes of not jumping up essentially. And eventually I want to work through all the steps. The first step would be just reaching for the handle. Second step would be jiggling the handle, the deadbolt a little bit, because that's a precipitator that the door is going to open. And then if she didn't get up, I say yes. and then I give her a treat. And I keep on doing this until eventually I can make the whole deal, yes, and give her a treat. For the deadbolt, for jiggling the handle, for jiggling, hitting the deadbolt, jiggling handle, and opening, closing. And eventually we get to the point where I can flip the deadbolt, open the door all the way, she stays there, and she's not trying to rush towards the door. Okay, the last stage for the anti-jumping is what I'm about to do now. So I'm gonna let myself out, I'm gonna close the door, and I'm gonna wait a second, I'm gonna knock and come back in, and I'm gonna show you how we can tie all these elements together, unless the cats decide to do a little bit of something funky on the couch because they're right in front of the chair. All right, so I'll be right back. Yes. Yes. So when you're doing this yourself, the first stage is just to teach your dog how to do it. Second stage is to teach your dog and help your dog practice doing it here with the door closed and open. The last stage, the next stage is you're going to actually go through the door, close the door, then you're going to come back in. Now, when we leave and we're gone for a while, we come in, that's where the excitement comes in because we've been gone for a while. So we're taking that out of the equation by just walking out the door, closing it. So we're recreating the elements of what happens when we open the door. What happens when a guest comes? We come here, we open the door, excuse me, sweetie, and we let our guest in. So we want her to practice. Somebody comes through the door, and as soon as they come through the door, the first thing they do is boop, yes. I should have had it in front. I should have had a treat ready to go. So don't do that. When a person are coming through the door, have them have treats in their hands. They come in the door and they're like, boop, yes. Boop, yes. Boop, yes. Why would I jump up? All the action's down here. This is where the treats are. And we're helping her practice this behavior independent of actually having anybody at the door at first. We don't actually do this with somebody at the door till you can go out the door, close the door, sit on your nice deck and enjoy the sun for a minute or two, then come in. I always knock on the door, open it, come in, and we're doing the hand targeting. So we're using you being the dog's guardian, as the initial person to practice this. And because I just walked out the door and walked back in, I'm not excited. And eventually I walk out and I wait a minute with the door closed. Then eventually 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We're lengthening that time to kind of gradually build up to that excitement level that typically causes the dogs to jump up. Now, eventually what you would do is have one of your friends come over and have your friends text you. So the door is closed and your friend texts you and you've already set your dog up for success, which I'm going to explain here in a minute. So your guest texts you, you come over here, you unlock the door, you tell the dog position, what are the place that means to stay right here. You've already conditioned them, as I mentioned earlier, how to open the door. Now when you open it, there's a guest there. Now your dog runs up here and gets all excited. I would have your door latched, and she's all excited. That's going to be really hard for her to not jump up when she's aroused. So what you can do is have your friend just out there and just have your friend ignore. Now invite one of your friends, somebody who can participate, who's not in a hurry for you to open the door and let him in. So they're just going to stand out there. And if standing here is too much, have them turn sideways. So that if the camera is facing the door, the person's turned sideways like this. I'm just turning sideways for the camera. So they're disengaged a little bit. And we're going to wait for that energy. She's going to probably be very vocal, very... When she settles down, then you come over here and reach for this. She's going to get excited. Pull it back. Sit. Sit. Yes. I reach, I jiggle. See how she got up? So we want to practice this with our friend. And this is where it's helpful if you have a neighbor come by, because they can not actually come in the house. So now you get your dog just used to sit. I reach over and jiggle this. Eventually I latch it. Eventually I open it a little bit more, a little bit. And after each one of these, I would typically come over, unlatch it, open it a little bit, close it. Yes. And then give her a treat. I'm marking and rewarding her sitting there and not going to accost the guest. Sit. Once the door opens, the guest comes in, it's just unleashed. So what we're using this barrier to help her practice. She can't get to the guest. And she comes here as excited, we're just going to wait. If she gets too excited, we'll just close the door and have our guest, again, that's why it's helpful if it's a neighbor, so they just walk over for a couple minutes, buy them some brownies or a six-pack or whatever. And then eventually you're able to open the door because you've practiced and taught her what you want to do. You're able to unlatch the door, open the door, and she stays there. Then when you have your friend come in, your friend's got treats in their hand. As soon as they come in the door, they're like, boop, yes. Getting a treat, boop, yes. Boop, yes. Now, before we get to the point with your friend, every time you come home, I want you to have about 10 or 15 treats in your hand. When you come through the door, do about 10 or 15 boops. We want her to become practiced. This is what I do at the door. My human opens the door, they come in, I touch my nose with their hand, and I get treats, and I do this. And you know how focused she's on the ball? Eventually, she's looking at hands. Your guests are coming in, you're like, why is your dog a weirdo? Why does she keep on nudging my hands with her nose? Because we've taught her this is the behavior we want you to offer instead of jumping up. We've helped her practice it. We taught her how to do it. We desensitized her for the door. And then we've helped her practice the activity to the point where it becomes second nature. Now when other people come in the door, they're doing the same thing instead of just like that. Instead of jumping up, she's touching them with her nose. Well, this is my buddy Moody, and these are some tips you can use if you have a dog that likes to jump up on guests who come to the door.